I am not a dragon. That is what the humans call me, but it is not my true name. My true name is made of sounds that come from deep inside my chest, sounds that a human throat cannot make. So I let them call me Ember instead. At first I did not like the name. Now I have decided I like it, even though it is not correct. Humans laugh when they say it, because in their old stories, dragons like gold and hide it in caves. I do not hide gold. I hide something else. I hide food. And I hide it for only one reason. I hide it for her. Let me tell you how this started, from the very beginning, so you understand why it matters so much to me. I came aboard a small ship called the Wayfinder 11 cycles ago. A cycle, for those who do not know, is close to 1 human month. I did not choose to be there. I was running from danger on my home world, and I found a broken part of a supply pod floating in space. I climbed inside it because I was small enough to fit, and I hoped it would take me somewhere safe. Instead, it crashed into the side of the Wayfinder during a routine cargo pickup. When the crew opened the storage bay, they found a strange, half-drowned creature covered in engine coolant, shaking, and too weak to fly. I was not much bigger than 2 human hands cupped together. My wings were thin and torn. I could not speak their language, and they could not speak mine. To them, I looked like something from a picture book, a tiny dragon washed up in the wrong story. Most of the crew did not want me there. A ship like the Wayfinder runs on tight resources. Every kilogram of food, every liter of water, every hour of oxygen is counted and planned. An extra mouth, especially one that could not work, could not pay, and could not explain itself, was a problem. I heard later that the captain almost had me sent out through the airlock with the rest of the damaged cargo pod. It would have been quick, and it would have been the practical choice. But there was a young woman on that crew named Mira, and she said no. Mira was the youngest person on the ship. She did not have rank or status yet. She did the hardest and dirtiest jobs, the ones nobody else wanted. She cleaned the filtration grates by hand. She hauled scrap metal from one end of the cargo bay to the other. She ate her meals last, after everyone else had already chosen the better portions, because that is simply how new crew members were treated on a ship like this. When she found me shaking in the engine bay, she did not see a problem to be solved by an airlock. She saw a small, frightened animal that needed help. She took off her own jacket and wrapped me in it. She carried me to her tiny sleeping quarters, even though pets and strays were against the rules. And then she did something I will never forget. She broke her own ration bar in half and gave the bigger half to me, even though I could tell, with senses that see more than simple color, that she had not eaten anything herself that day. I did not understand humans very well back then. I understand them a little better now, mostly because of her. That very first night, while she slept, I did something that is instinct for my kind, the way breathing is instinct for yours. I took the last piece of that ration bar, the piece with the most flavor left in it, the piece any sensible creature would have eaten right away, and instead of eating it, I hid it. I tucked it under a loose coolant pipe near her bunk, in a small space I had shaped into a nest with bits of wire and cloth. Among my people, this is not a strange thing to do. It is something we are born knowing. When someone gives you your life, you do not simply take what they offer and move on. You save something back for them, something good, not because you owe them a debt, and not because you are trying to buy their approval. It is a promise, silent and simple. It says, "Tomorrow, when you are hungry, I will already have been thinking of you." The next morning, Mira found the small piece of food tucked into my little nest of wires. She laughed, and it was a good laugh, surprised and warm, not the kind of laugh that makes fun of something. She picked it up, looked at me, and ate it in one bite. Then she scratched gently under my chin and said, "You didn't have to do that, you goofy little thing." She was wrong, though she did not know it yet. I did have to do it. That is the whole point of a real gift. It has to cost you something, or it is not truly a gift at all. From that night forward, I never stopped. Every single night, no matter how tired I was, no matter how little food there was to go around, I would set aside a piece for her. When Mira earned slightly better rations for good work, like real protein instead of the usual paste, or a piece of fruit that was not the dried, reconstituted kind, or once, unforgettably, a small square of chocolate she had won from another crew member in a card game, I would wait until she was distracted and take only the smallest possible bite for myself. The rest, I would hide. Sometimes under the pipe, sometimes inside her boot, which she did not always appreciate when she put her foot in, and found a piece of dried meat waiting for her. Once, I hid a treat inside her pillow, which she definitely did not appreciate at 3 in the morning when she rolled over onto it and woke up confused. The rest of the crew began to notice. There was a big, loud cargo handler named Anders who found the whole thing very funny. He used to say, "Your dragon is richer than you are, Mira. Look at her. She has a whole treasure room hidden under that pipe." And he was not entirely wrong about the hiding, but he did not understand the reason behind it. It was never about having more. It was never about hoarding for the sake of hoarding. It was always about one simple thought that lived inside me every single day. She will be hungry again someday, and when that day comes, I want to already have something ready for her. I think this is something that not every human understands right away. Some people, not all, but some, learn over time to give only what is easy, and they call that generosity. I do not say this to insult anyone. I only say it because Mira was never like that. She gave things that cost her something, even when it hurt her to give them, and that is exactly why I chose her, out of every human on that ship, to be the one I saved my food for. Life on the Wayfinder was not easy, but it had a rhythm to it, and over time I learned that rhythm well. The ship traveled between small trading posts and mining colonies, picking up scrap metal, old machine parts, and sometimes stranded travelers who needed a ride to somewhere safer. It was not a rich ship, it was not a fast ship, but it was a ship that tried to do good, even when doing good cost the crew something they could not easily spare. I spent my days exploring every corner I was allowed to reach. I learned the names of the crew, even if I could not say them properly. There was Anders, the big cargo handler with the loud laugh. There was Sayla, the ship's engineer, who fixed things with tools that looked far too heavy for her thin arms. There was the captain, a quiet man named Voss, who rarely smiled but who always made sure every single crew member, down to the smallest one, had a place to sleep and something to eat. And there was a small stowaway boy, Anders's nephew, who had hidden himself on the ship 3 systems back because he did not want to be left behind on a colony that was slowly running out of resources. Everyone called him Pip, though I am fairly certain that was not his real name either. Pip was small, even for a human child, and he was always hungry. I noticed this before anyone else did, because I notice hunger the way some creatures notice fear. Mira noticed it too, not long after I did. She began quietly setting aside small bits of her own meals for him, the same way I set aside bits of mine for her. It made me proud, in a strange way, to see that the habit I had been practicing every night had somehow, without words, passed itself on to her. I want to tell you about a few smaller moments too, because they matter just as much as the big ones, even if they seem simple at first. There was a night, early on, when Mira came back from a long shift looking more tired than I had ever seen her. Her hands were scraped from cleaning a filtration grate that had jammed twice in one day, and she barely spoke before falling onto her bunk. I remember watching her from my little nest of wires, wondering if she had even remembered to eat anything at all that day. When I checked the small ration she had been given that morning, I found it untouched on the shelf beside her bunk. She had been too tired, or too busy, to eat it. I did not wait until night to leave my gift that time. I carried the smallest piece I could manage, a bit of dried fruit I had been saving for 2 days, and placed it gently on her pillow so it would be the very first thing she saw when she woke. When morning came, she found it there, and I watched her smile before she even opened her eyes all the way. She looked over at me and said, "You always know, don't you?" I did not always know, but I always tried to notice. There was another moment, a little later, when Anders teased me in front of the whole crew during a meal, holding up an empty ration wrapper and asking loudly where I had hidden the rest of it this time. Everyone laughed, including Mira, but I noticed something in her eyes that told me she understood the teasing was not unkind. It was simply the crew's way of saying they had noticed too, that they saw what I did every night, and that in their own way, they respected it. Sayla even started leaving me small scraps of her own meals sometimes, just to see what I would do with them. I always did the same thing. I saved them. I began to understand something during those early cycles that I had not fully understood before I met Mira and the rest of the crew. Humans are not simple creatures. Even though they sometimes act like they are, they can be tired and short-tempered one moment, and endlessly kind the next. They can complain loudly about small inconveniences while quietly giving away their last meal to someone who needs it more. I had heard stories from my own people about humans before I ever met one. Stories that painted your kind as selfish and short-sighted, always reaching for more than you needed. Perhaps some humans are like that. I cannot speak for every single one of you, but the humans I lived among on the Wayfinder taught me something different, something I now believe more strongly than any story I was told as a hatchling. When it truly matters, when someone is struggling and there is a choice to be made, most of the humans I have known choose kindness, even when kindness costs them something real. 4 cycles into my time on the Wayfinder, Everything changed in a single terrible hour. We were traveling through a quiet part of space, a region the ship's map said was mostly empty, when we struck an unmarked debris field. Nobody had logged it. No warning beacon had been placed there. The impact was sudden and violent enough to shake the entire ship. Alarms filled every hallway. Lights flickered. For a few long seconds, I genuinely believed the ship was going to break apart around us. When the shaking stopped, Sayla's voice came over the comm system, tight and controlled in the way people speak when they are trying very hard not to sound afraid. We had taken a hull breach in the aft section of the ship. Life support was holding, which was the most important thing. But the aft section was exactly where the emergency food storage had been kept, and when the hull opened to space, 6 weeks of stored rations went with it, lost forever into the dark. I did not fully understand at first how serious this was. I understood hunger, but I did not yet understand what it meant for an entire crew of humans to face weeks with almost nothing to eat, on a ship too far from any station to be resupplied quickly. Captain Voss called everyone together and explained the situation honestly, without trying to soften it. What remained of the food would be rationed carefully, split into small portions, stretched as far as it could possibly go. It would not be enough. Not really, but it was what they had, and they would make it work, the way humans so often insist on making impossible things work through sheer stubbornness. I watched something happen over the next few days that I have thought about many times since. Humans, when there is not enough to go around, sometimes do something strange and brave and a little bit foolish. They give away their own portion to whoever looks the most in need, and then that person gives part of it away to someone else, and slowly, quietly, almost nobody admits how little they are actually eating. Mira gave a portion of her already small ration to Pip, because he was young and small and could not handle going hungry the way an adult could. She did not tell anyone she was doing this. She did not want anyone to notice, especially not Captain Voss, who might have insisted she stop. But I saw. I always saw. That night, after everyone else had gone quiet in their bunks, I did not go to my hiding place under the pipe to add something new, the way I had done every single night for 4 cycles. Instead, for the first time since I had begun this small private ritual, I went there to take everything out. It was not a large amount of food, not by human standards. 6 cycles of careful saving had given me small pieces of dried meat, a few dried fruit rinds that I had learned still held good nutrients even after humans threw them away, the last small unmelted corner of that long-ago chocolate, the ends of 3 different ration bars, and a strip of dried jerky that Anders had once given me as a joke, which I had never eaten myself because I always suspected Mira would enjoy it more than I would. To a human stomach, it was not a feast. It might have been barely 1 full meal, but it represented 6 full cycles of a single thought, repeated every night without fail. I was thinking of you first. I placed all of it gently into her open hands while she slept, because I did not trust myself to watch her face while she woke up and discovered what I had done. My people do not cry the way humans do, with water from our eyes. When something moves us deeply, smoke rises softly from our nostrils instead, and I did not want her to see that. She woke slowly, and then all at once, when she felt the small pile in her hands, for a long moment, she went completely still, staring down at it in the dim light of her quarters. "Ember," she finally said, her voice quiet. "This is everything. This is all of it, isn't it? Every single piece you ever saved." I made the small sound my people make instead of nodding, a soft click deep in my throat that I hoped she would understand as yes. I had not known, when I started that very first night, whether she would keep me at all. I had not known if I would still be welcome on this ship a week later, let alone 6 cycles later. I had saved for her anyway, every single night, without any guarantee that it would ever matter to anyone but me. That, I think, was rather the entire point. She did not eat it all right away. She looked at that small, humble pile of saved, hoarded, quietly precious nothing for a long moment, and I watched something shift and rebuild itself behind her eyes, the way a person looks when a piece of a puzzle they did not know they were missing finally clicks into place. "You have been doing this every single night," she said slowly. "Since the very first night. You didn't even know if I would keep you. You didn't know if I would still be here in a week. I had not known." I told her, in the only way I could, with a soft nudge of my head against her hand, that it had never mattered whether she kept me. What mattered was that she had already given me everything. That very first night, when she gave up her own meal for a stranger she had every reason to be afraid of. She could not simply accept a gift without turning it into something bigger. That is who she was, through and through. She ate perhaps half of what I had saved, and then she quietly split the remaining half between me and Pip, insisting that we both needed it as much as she did. I tried to argue, in my own way, that I had saved it entirely for her and no one else, but Mira was, and remains, an extremely stubborn human. The days that followed were hard. We survived on tiny amounts of recycled nutrient paste, scraps, and whatever careful rationing Captain Voss could manage. Nobody had enough. Everybody was tired, and a little bit afraid, though most of the crew tried very hard not to show it in front of each other. But nobody went without something entirely, not even once. And by the fourth day after the accident, a relief ship finally found our distress signal and arrived with real supplies. I remember the moment the new food came aboard almost as clearly as I remember the moment the old food was lost. There was a strange kind of quiet on the ship that day, the quiet of people who had been holding their breath for far too long and could finally let it out. Nobody died during those difficult days, nobody was seriously hurt, and though it may sound like a small thing to some, everybody on that crew remembers, even now, whose small hidden stash of saved food helped carry them through the very worst of it. Mira never tells this story herself. She is not the kind of person who enjoys being called a hero, and she always changes the subject when someone tries to bring it up, so I have decided that I must be the one to tell it, because it deserves to be told, and because she deserves to be remembered for what she did, even if she would rather stay quiet about it. After the crisis passed, life on the Wayfinder slowly returned to its usual rhythm. The hull was repaired at the next station we reached. New supplies were loaded. Sayla fixed the systems that had been damaged, muttering the whole time about how somebody really should have logged that debris field properly. Captain Voss gave a short, quiet speech to the crew about resilience, though I suspect most of the crew was more interested in the fresh fruit that had come aboard with the relief ship than in the speech itself. Pip grew a little taller over the following cycles, and a little less hungry-looking, which made both Mira and me quietly happy in our own separate ways. Anders still tells the story of my hidden treasure under the pipe to anyone new who joins the crew, though now he tells it with a different kind of pride in his voice, not just amusement. He tells new crew members, "Watch this little dragon closely. She is saving something for someone right now, and one day, you will understand exactly why it matters." As for me, I never stopped my nightly habit. Even now, long after that difficult stretch of days has passed, even though food is no longer scarce and the ship is no longer in danger, I still take a small piece of whatever good thing comes my way and hide it under that same pipe, or in her boot, or once in a while, if I am feeling particularly playful, inside her pillow again, even though she still pretends to be annoyed about it every single time. I do not do it because I have to anymore. In the beginning, perhaps it truly was instinct, something built into me by my own kind long before I ever met a single human. But somewhere along the way, during all those quiet nights and that one terrifying week when everything we had was lost, it became something different. It became a choice. I choose, every single night, to save the best piece for her, not out of instinct, and not out of fear, but simply because she taught me, without ever meaning to, exactly what a true gift is supposed to be. Mira is still my favorite human. I do not think that will ever change, no matter how many strange, brave, loud, and wonderfully generous creatures I meet in all my travels among your kind across the stars. She was the first one who showed me kindness when she had every reason not to, and I intend to keep showing her the same kindness back, one small saved piece of food at a time, for as long as we both remain on this ship together, sailing quietly from one distant star to the next. And if you ever find yourself aboard a small trading ship somewhere out among the quiet dark between the stars, and you happen to notice a tiny scaled creature tucking something small and precious into a hidden corner when she thinks nobody is watching, do not disturb her. She is not hoarding gold. She is not even hoarding food, not really. She is simply making a promise, the same promise she makes every single night, to someone she has decided matters more to her than almost anything else in this entire universe. And if you wait, quietly, and watch a little longer, you might just see the exact moment that promise is kept. Sometimes new crew members ask me, in their own clumsy way, why I still bother with the hiding and the saving, now that food is easy to find and nobody on this ship goes hungry anymore. I wish I could answer them properly, in words they would understand right away. Instead, I simply lead them, quietly, to the small space under the old pipe near Mira's bunk, and I show them what is waiting there. It is never much. A small piece of fruit. A corner of something sweet, a strip of dried meat, saved instead of eaten. It does not look like very much at all, and I understand why some of them seem confused by it at first. But then I watch their faces, later, when they finally understand. It usually happens on a hard day, a day when something goes wrong, when supplies run short, or when someone on the crew is struggling and does not want to say so out loud. That is when they remember what they saw under the pipe, and they finally understand what it truly means. It is never about the food itself. It has never been about the food. It is about being remembered, quietly and consistently, by someone who chose to think of you before they thought of themselves, long before you ever needed them to. That is the lesson Mira taught me, without ever meaning to teach me anything at all. She simply lived it, every single day, and I was fortunate enough to be there to see it. Now I try to live it too, one small saved piece at a time, for as long as the stars keep carrying this little ship, and this small crew, and this one very stubborn, very kind human, safely onward together.